All right, we have everybody. No, I see folks coming on. Couple more moments, just giving everybody a couple more minutes there. Chat, I like your background transition. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and get us started because it's a minute or two after 1. And I wanted to introduce myself. I think most of you know who I am. I'm Shanta Zimmer. I'm the Senior Associate Dean for Medical Education. I'm also an infectious disease doc and the Associate Dean for Diversity and Inclusion. And I'm really proud of the work that everybody has done. I've been having an opportunity to review some of the things that you've been doing, but what I'm most proud of is how you've stuck with this program throughout an extremely difficult time frame. I don't know that I'm hopeful that we'll never reflect in our careers and say that there was anything more difficult than trying to be a clinician and an educator and a student in the time that you have been doing this program. So I wanted to say thank you to you and congratulations. It's been really important to me that we try to keep some of the components of our academic mission moving forward, even in the time when a lot of us probably wanted to do our clinical work or come to work and then curl up in a ball, hoping that the world will be different when we woke up at a different time. And I think the work that you have done actually brings a lot of joy and fulfillment to all of us here on the campus. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I also want to acknowledge the work of our team supporting the TSP, especially Jody Wang and Mary Teal and Erin McKay, who've done fantastic work to support you through your sessions. Erin, you've been a real stalwart through this and juggling many, many different things. And I think all of us know how much work you put nights, weekends, days, all the time to make this program work. So thank you for that. And then all of you probably want to acknowledge your faculty leaders, Helen McFarland, has MJ on here, Mary Jane Rappaport, and she's out, I remember that. Thanks to MJ, and also especially to you, Chad, for your leadership of this program and organization and shepherding and mentorship of the learners who've been participating. I used to be a residency program director, and one of the things that really encourages me today, and I know some of you think about this as well, is when my learners go off to be, I actually see one of my residents here, is when they go off to do amazing things and then reflect back and tell me about it. Not that I'm responsible for it or contributed to it, but that I like to bask in their successes. And one of the things that I also reflect on is how much I learn from the people who I was quote unquote supposed to be teaching or leading. And I think that's probably a theme that all of you who are interested in careers in medical education probably reflect on, is that you get a lot more from your learners, whether that's a resident or a fellow or a student of any ilk, than you think that they may get from you. And that selfless component of education, I think, is something very similar to the altruism that we bring to the field of practicing medicine in the clinical space as well. So with that in mind, I have one of my former residents who surpasses me on the education scale by leaps and bounds, is Gaten Scrow, and some of my education team have heard me read poetry from him before. I'm uncomfortable reading poetry, and so what I've also learned from Gaten is to take a page from him to say, this is something that we can do in education by bringing the humanities in that actually makes all of us better. And he wrote a poem that I don't think I've shared with any of you before, called In the Footsteps of Danielle Offrey. And many of you probably know Dr. Offrey is a famous writer. She runs the Bellevue Literary Review, or the BLR, and she practices in New York City and is a patient herself. And so it's no surprise to me that Gaten would choose that reflecting on her as an educator who brings the humanities into medicine might be appropriate. And so now I reflect on Gayton, reminding me about poems, and in a kind of meta way, saying him reflecting on what teachers bring as all of you use your new teaching skills. So here goes. In the footsteps of Daniel Offrey, the young physicians file in apprehensively, inspecting scattered chairs, laminate tables, a lone sofa splashed with sunlight. Despite the shade of fatigue in their minds, are constantly computing, navigating algorithms, mastering games, which is why I gave them warning after making rounds and slashing the day's check boxes. We'll pause for post-call poetry. The word itself, against the starkness of the wards, is startling, so we begin with something easy, lines straight and free-flowing, no masking the poet's intention, a call to listen generously. The confident resident, used to speaking with authority, speaks with authority, and buoyed by his endorsement, the others are engaged. I raise the stakes, let them steep in metaphor, riddle them with syntax just beyond our reach. We will no longer tolerate a hierarchy of meaning one resident conveys from the corners of her eyes, seeming pleased. I sip Dr. Pepper deliberately. The final poem conjures a landscape so distinct it suggests an alternate universe, a dazzle of light, tincture of sea spray that prickles the senses precisely. For 30 rarefied seconds, nobody speaks. We soak in the sun and stretch like cats in our seats. Before we break our MD, PhD, lean, bespeckled, twists as if to leave, instead unfolds a sonnet that he penned and clears his throat to read it. So as you take on that new piece of your career, congratulations on what you have accomplished, and look forward to continuing to challenge yourself as you go forward. And I want to say a special thank you for everything you do for all of the learners at the institution. I know that this has been a really difficult time for everyone, and I am eternally grateful for the way the community has really buoyed one another. I hope you continue to do that in your next steps. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chad for the next component of your program. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Dr. Zimmer. This is, one of the most fun things that we get to do work-wise is to celebrate you all. I'm so grateful for your active participation in the program. So, and I'll give a thanks to Dr. Zimmer in a second, but I will move and let Helen. So I put on some balloons for you, a bow tie. That's how much we love you guys. And Mary Jane sends her best regards. She's traveling internationally, and I think it's the middle of the night. So she was going to try to set an alarm. We'll see if we see her face or not. I told her, don't worry about it. Enjoy your vacation. So, so Helen and I will try to hold down the fort with Jody and Mary and Aaron as usual. So I'm going to let Helen say a few words, and then I'll say a couple other words, and then we'll recognize you guys for your projects.
Great. So I just have a few words and wanted to use a visual example as well. So, less than 2 years ago, we got together and we started with a curriculum framework. We worked our way around the framework. We added some, we started with a model of curriculum develop. We added a whole bunch of pyramidal frameworks. We threw in some rubrics. And you have taken all of those building blocks to start your masterpiece. So you may not be completed yet, we know that, but you're on your way. And it's been such a pleasure to travel this path with you, seeing your determination and creativity. And I really look forward to continuing to follow your successes and collaborate and cheer for you as you continue to grow in leadership positions and academic medicine. So it's really been a pleasure and an honor to be with you along this path.
Thanks, Helen. I'm going to put up a couple visuals as well, just to keep us organized here. So there's Dr. Zimmer's picture, huge. So a few thank yous. I think most especially, as you all know, it really is the TSP coordinator or coordinators in your guys' case that really run the show. I appreciate your expression of gratitude. I know that you have done that for Aaron, who primarily ran your stuff. And so thank you all for doing that. I want to acknowledge Aaron and Mary, who picked up after Aaron this year, and Jody, who was also picked up for Aaron to help us run things. The coordinators really run the show, and so we're so grateful to them for doing that. So thank you all. Certainly want to thank Dr. Riley and Dr. Zimmer for supporting TSP. We don't exist without their support of the program and your success in the program and after the program, sort of validating its use. So certainly want to thank Deans Riley and Zimmer. And even when COVID budget stuff was tough, they continued to support us and wanted to make this happen and make it a priority. So thank you for your ongoing support. I want to recognize, I don't know if any are here, we kind of have a mishmash of our graduating TSP cohorts and some of the new TSP cohort here to support you. I don't know if I see any department chairs or division heads who were invited, but they are the other group of folks who make this possible for you all by protecting your time and identifying you as education champions. So I want to thank them as well. So, and I hope that you will thank them as you're giving them your elevator pitch, which you've only practiced 50 times by now, or maybe more. So about, hey, what was it I protected you for in that TSP? What'd you do? So, and then lastly, but not least, I know Helen and Mary Jane, and congratulations. We're excited for you. Once a TSPer, always a TSPer. So you always have access to all of us and other TSP cohorts and people in the academy to help support your growth. So I still reach out to people that I did TSP with 10 years ago for stuff. Hopefully you'll do that with each other, and you know that we're always here to help and support you as well. So always keep that in mind. The other thing I'll say about that is we're virtual this year, but next year we'll be in person, and we always have a TSP grad lunch right before the graduation. All cohorts of TSP from the past are invited to come celebrate and network at that lunch and participate in the graduation. So look for that as an in-person opportunity to be together, and we'll give you a special shout out there as well. It's our sort of in-person group. So just a couple words before we get to your stuff. So I just wanted to remind you of something that I mentioned to you recently, that I would encourage you to just take a moment to do a little reflection. And when you do that, remember, as you think about perspective, there's two ways you can do that, right? You can look at the gap, which we talk a lot about in TSP. I did not put like a needs assessment, identify your gap picture up here, like we talk about in TSP all the time. You can say, this is where I want to be 20 years from now. Wow, there's a wide gap. But I would actually encourage you to do more, and there's emerging evidence about the mental health of doing more reflection on the gains that you've made. So I'd like you to reflect back just for a minute. I won't make you put stuff in the chat, but I'd like you to reflect back at the start of TSP, where your project was, what you were doing. I'm looking at all of you who've like completely flipped your projects and upgraded and changed a million things. Think about all the progress you've made, and think about what you're prepared to now go out and do as you move into the future. So just super proud of you, and just remember to use the gain as your perspective, at least as often, or if not more often, than sort of the gap. So my last thing that I'll just remind you of, some parting words, is to use your performance enhancing drugs. Just use your PEDs. So P is filter your decisions and your opportunities through your purpose, right? We discovered our why for doing what we do in TSP. And so you have your why statements, what makes you tick. You have your fingerprint for how you apply your gifts and your skills to make your why a reality. And so continue in those next steps to filter your opportunities through your purpose, through your why. So go back to that statement, continue to refine it and grow it. E is something that we emphasize in just about every TSP session, start with the end in mind. What are you trying to get to? Not, how many sessions do I have and how many hours, but what am I trying to produce at the end? And then working back from the end, right? That's what great educators do, like you all. And then your D is be deliberate in everything that you do, right? That's what separates you now as great educational leaders and curriculum developers from people who just sort of scatterbrain, build curriculum and do things. You guys are starting with the end in mind, and you're doing it deliberately. So I always like to give you sort of fun visuals that you'll remember. So just remember your PEDs. All right, and with that, we just want to recognize you for the awesome work that you've put in over the last 18 plus months. So Dr. Anderson is first. Her project was Stepping Stones, helping early career pediatric hospitalists find their footing. So congratulations, Lauren, great work. Next up is Maureen, Dr. Bauer, Pediatric Allergy and Immunology, a career readiness curriculum for allergy and immunology fellows in training. Great job, Maureen, congratulations. Next is Nicole Christian, out on maternity leave. I don't think I saw her on our screen here. Jump in if I'm wrong. I'm doing another double check of the moving boxes. Congratulations in more than one way for Dr. Christian. Her project was surgical education research track development for her residents. So congratulations, Nicole. And Rachel is up next. Dr. Clopton did a cardiovascular physiology revitalized curriculum and was integrating all kinds of sticky concepts, et cetera. So she really put a lot of things into play. And I think she mentioned that she got stuck on emergency backup calls, so she may not be with us either, but congratulations, Rachel.
And next we have Dr. Rashawn Ford, whose project is development of a curricular session on advocacy through service as a pediatric expert on a child fatality review team. Great work, Rashawn. And then Dr. Natalie Held, whose project is redistribution of basic medical science content during undergraduate medical education curricular reform, an expert-derived list of recommendations. Then we have Gia Liu, Dr. Gia Liu, whose project is a novel trauma-informed care training for internal medicine residents. Great project, and thank you for being a little shorter in title. And Dr. Melissa New, whose project is toward patient-centric care, implementing a shared decision-making curriculum in a longitudinal integrated clerkship. Congratulations, Melissa.
Great. Next, we have Nikki Wen. Does implicit bias training make a difference? A 6-month follow-up. Congratulations, great work. And Annie follows that. So this was our pulmonary contingent, Dr. Zimmer. So we had a nice representation from that great division. So she did an immersive critical care pilot curriculum for 4th-year medical students. Great work, Annie.
I know some pulmonologists, but I have nothing to do with that selection part.
Yeah. Eric Sawyer his project was an assessment of financial literacy in current doctoral PT students. Will they be ready to manage educational debt? Great work, Eric. And Megan Suhu, are you still here and awake, Megan? Megan is running on an hour of sleep or so and has to head back to work very soon. Thank you for joining us. Your project, cardiology education and the pediatrics residency and needs assessment. Great work, and thanks for joining us post and pre-call.
And next we have Dr. Stacy Saudinger, whose project is implementation of a novel clinical reasoning curriculum for advanced practice fellows in hospital medicine. Great work, Stacy. And Dr. Hilary Stemple, whose project is educational approaches to pediatric intern advocacy education. And Dr. Paul Tran, whose project is practice presentation and review of active cases to improve the clinical experience for pediatric clerkship students. Great work, Paul. And Dr. Gil Weintraub, implementation of a longitudinal dermatology curriculum in internal medicine and residency education.
Great. Well, we just wanted to, again, thank you all. We look forward to seeing you in person at next year's graduation. There was a request, I won't mention from whom, about potentially a happy hour sort of get together with the group. So we'll sort of look at that. If you guys want to organize one, that's great. Otherwise, we'll maybe sort of look at a time to head over across my window here to Cedar Creek Pub or something and do happy hour to get to see each other in person. So I know that, speaking for MJ and Helen, this group was just such a fun group. You were so collaborative and interactive, and you jumped into your Zoom breakout groups and just, you know, sort of always got to work and had a lot of fun. Always told me we didn't give you enough time because you had to do a lot of socializing and catching up first. So I know and look forward to your support of each other as you move forward, because I know that a lot of your projects were just very transformed by your work with each other. And so I think that's a great example for everybody, and a good example for all of us as to how important it is to have great collaborators. So thanks for setting that example. Thanks for a fun couple of years, fun 18 months, and for presenting this week at the MedEd Symposium. And on behalf of the school and the academy and our TSP leadership team, thanks and congratulations. Wish you a good afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Congrats. Please invite me to happy hour.